I got this thing about hospitals. I died in one once, which was kind of a bad experience. I had really bad cellulitis. They hospitalized me. They removed the cellulitis, which was between the groin and testicle. And then it turned into gas gangrene. They had to treat that. End result was I got very, very sick, and they had to give me a PICC line. I had to have antibiotics on the PICC line for 30 days, and the hospital experience wasn't very, very good. After going through all of that and going through with an infectious disease doctor and getting cured of the infectious disease that I had a few months left on insurance, and all the copay had been paid. So I decided to get a rotator cuff operated on. Well, I go in the hospital in December, right about this time, and I don't come out well. The surgeon that was going to do the rotator cuff was standing when I came out and said he didn't do the surgery. And I asked him why, and he said, because you went under, we had to revive you. So I woke up with a couple broken ribs. I had burn marks on the chest where they tried to jumpstart me, and a few things like that. So after months of rehabilitation for the broken ribs and everything, and having died technically under anesthetic, there probably wasn't another anesthesiologist in the state that would touch me. So for over 20 years now, I've suffered rotator cuff problems with bone on bone and very uncomfortable and things like this. In any event, that's what I've gone through over the last several years. Both rotator cuffs have been shot. Now I got bone on my knees. I just suffer with them. And it sometimes makes me crotchety. It sometimes makes me angry, etc. The other thing that happened is when I was recovering from one of the diseases, I got bitten by a brown recluse. So I had to have more antibiotics for that. So the 1 year was pretty bad. And as a result, I've had this sort of distrust for doctors and hospitals. And I've seen a lot of them lately that many of you realize. Also, over the last 20 years since then, I've taken several courses. One was to get certified in conflict resolution. So I took 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 hours of conflict resolution out of the Department of Sociology. This was graduate work. I took social conflict, conflict resolution, leadership, counseling, etc. And what I found out, if you are a mediation theory, etc., and if you're going to do mediation, it's not cost effective, no matter what anybody says, if it's done right, because you have to get to root causes. Most lawyers don't want to get to root causes, they just want to reach a resolution the quickest and easiest way. So if you have lawyers do dispute resolution, you're not going to get a guarantee of results, and you're going to get conflict resolution, but it might not be in anybody's best interest other than the lawyers. But be that as it may, what we've got is a whole group of people now that are self-righteous and feel they can correct people. And they got this entitlement. So let me tell you about my hospital stay. I had RSV virus. I went to the hospital. They diagnosed the RSV, and they also said I had pneumonia and pleurisy. So they put me in a hospital room, and it was under quarantine. And to come into the room, they had to put on special garb and take it off before you left the room, which added to inefficiency. If I pushed the call button, the nurse had to leave the station, put the protection gear on, come in, and then attend to my needs. Well, when you're my age, you have prostate and bladder problems, and by the time they got in there, it was too late anyway. So I got used to that embarrassment. There wasn't much I could do about it. But one of the things that really bothered me is when I went into the hospital, and they knew I was going to be kept because I had these RSV and the pneumonia, they told me to order lunch. And that was 11 o'clock in the morning. Well, finally they took me up to the room at 4 o'clock. And at 4:30 they delivered my breakfast, which I had ordered at 10 o'clock. And of course it was cold. Well, that was very frustrating. And since I have this fear of hospital and this paranoid idea that they're really there to kill you more than anything, and if you don't watch yourself, they will, I expressed some discern and concern over the fact that the breakfast was 6 hours late. Well, they said, never mind, we'll give you a ham or a turkey sandwich, which is not in conformity with trying to make you feel better. One of the things then I noticed, I started paying attention to their behavior. And many of you know I'm mostly a sociologist rather than a lawyer. And I was a judge for a while and have other credentials. But what I noticed is that a culture of fear existed in Boulder Community Hospital. Everybody there was afraid more of getting sued than they were about patient care. So there was a few embarrassment moments for me. One when I had explosive diarrhea, and it took them 5 minutes to get there. And I explained that maybe they wouldn't have had this mess to clean up had they been able to get there sooner. They also put me on this thing every time I moved it, an alarm went off. So the alarm would go off if I shift weight on the bed, and they would come running in there 10 minutes late. And the only thing it did is the buzzer would annoy me. Finally, after a couple days, we worked out a thing where I wouldn't have the bed alarm. And I would promise to call them and not wander off to the bathroom by myself and not do anything unless I was accompanied by an adult, etc. Well, things went along pretty well, except for one time I ordered lunch. And the lunch came down, my wife was in the hall. She was there when the lunch arrived, and she volunteered to take it into my room. They said, the waiter or whoever it was delivered lunch said, we have to check with the nurses. So my wife left, and she was walking between Boulder Community Hospital to get her car at Big O Tire, I think, on 28th Street. And she got as far as the YMCA on 28th Street, which is over a mile away, and I called her and I said, where's my lunch? She said it was right there, it should have been delivered. And it hadn't been delivered yet. So I called the nurse's station, and whoever answered the phone there, I said, you know, I've been waiting for my lunch. It's been outside. Where the hell is my lunch? When am I going to get the goddamn thing? And the woman at the front desk said, well, I will ask the nurse, only more politely. Now, I'm almost 80. I've been distraught. Hospitals upset me. Hospitals are petrodisses. I know the odds of walking out of a hospital at my age are less than somebody at the age of 20 walking out. I've died in a hospital before. And I'm a crotchety old man. Here I am with COPD. I can't breathe. I think I'm going to drown any day. Diagnosed with pneumonia and all this kind of stuff. And all I want is a simple lunch. And they're too goddamn busy filling out forms, playing with their computers, or whatever, to deliver it to me. And it's been at least a half hour, closer to 40 minutes. and the goddamn thing was cold. Now, I really resent some middle-class young lady who more than likely isn't a virgin, pretending to have virgin ears that have never heard hell or damn. I also resent the fact that somebody, when I grew up, I addressed somebody my age as Mr. You know, they can address me as Mr., Judge, Your Honor, or Professor. They can take their choice. But I don't correct them when they say Dennis, because it's not that important to me. I could correct them and say, well, I'm Mr. Blewett, not Dennis. Why should some punk girl, or boy even for that matter, anybody that age, correct me for saying shit, hell, or damn? My answer to them is, fuck them, I'm going to talk the way I did. Now, one of the things that you should do as a health provider worker is realize that some people are there, maybe they're mentally unstable or whatever. Maybe I was suicidal. What if I were a suicide person or semi-suicidal and they could correct me that way, they frustrated me that way with the lunch? Well, I could have freaked out. No, I did freak out. I protested. And I protested, and they said, why are you protesting? I said, I'm not going to eat the fucking lunch. Why aren't you going to eat the lunch? They sent in this person who used techniques that I used to train people in. And was nearly not as effective as the people I trained. But that's a whole other matter. So they sent in this conflict lady, head nurse, and all that kind of stuff. Her idea was not to de-escalate things, but to show me where I was wrong and I should be more polite to the staff because they're underpaid, oversexed maybe, I don't know. But at least underpaid and they're doing their job, things like that. Well, I did my job as a civil rights lawyer. I had 60% of the cases I paid, I never got paid for. And I did it as a calling. Nursing I view it as a calling, not some place where people make money. They don't work nearly as hard as teachers and they make twice the money teachers do. But that's another point. And the other thing is it was quite obvious they're more concerned with covering their asses for malpractice claims than they are about patient care. They don't care that much about patient care as long as their asses are covered. And you can see that in the way they treat people. They dot every I, cross every T, make sure every procedure is done, and make sure everything is logged into a computer's dialogue or whatever. I went through the patient records when I got released, and one of the things they said was my wife had threatened. Well, my wife has not threatened anything. Most of the time, she's a leash to me to keep me from blowing up as some of these ignorant sons of bitches. I have no patience for stupidity, as a lot of people that have dealt with me can attest to. And these people were stupid in a lot of ways. But their priorities are different. It's not patient care. And that's why I'm walking around with 2 rotator cuffs that don't work. Because anesthesiologists are afraid to put me under anesthetic. Because I'm afraid they're going to get sued. Well, if I operated a law practice that way, I'd never have done any cases. I'd never have tried any trials. I would have settled everything and played it safe. Well, you don't get to be a trial lawyer doing that. You don't really get to be much of a lawyer doing that. You become a money machine for the great ripoff called the American judicial system. In any event, I'm sitting there, I'm hungry, and I said I'm not going to eat this omelet that I had ordered 3 hours ago because it's cold. And they're cajoling me, they're doing things like that. And they said, what do you want? You know, one of the first things you learn in conflict resolution is you go to the party and you said, how can I help you? What is it you want? What are you trying to do? Instead of saying, watch your mouth, watch your language, apologize to the other party. You don't do that. What I wanted a hot omelet. I didn't want a cold omelet. And so I said, well, I'm on strike. I want to talk to the hospital administrator. Something's wrong here. He ought to know about it. Well, I never got to the hospital administrator. I got to the head nurse, who told me I was an asshole because I said shit and damn and hell to the receptionist at the nurse's station. You can't win in that situation. We've got to change the culture. We've got to make people more afraid of the consumer, afraid of the customer, than they are of lawyers filing malpractice. For instance, the HIPAA thing. I doubt if many lawyers have read the HIPAA thing. It's easier just to say, claim HIPAA and don't give any information. It violates HIPAA, this, that, and the other. And I would venture to say most of them don't know what the goddamn statute means. The same way as school attorneys. It's easier to say don't do it than let's let them go on a field trip or let's do this, that, or the other. They can bill the school board the same amount and they don't have to do anything or take any liability. So here I am sitting in the hospital. 3 times in a row I get cold meals, and then I have to have some kind of heart thing to make sure I don't have any bacteria on the heart valve. So they go through that. There's a cardiologist that does it. They didn't find anything, etc. And all of a sudden the next day I'm on a heart diet and I can't eat this and I can't eat that. So I order breakfast and they tell me I can't have 2 pieces of toast. I call up the nurse station. I call up about 3 different people, and they said they're going to enter into the computer that I'm not a heart diet patient. They automatically put heart diet because the last procedure was a cardiologist doing a heart exam. So they said it was changed in the computer, but I talked to the kitchen again, and they said it wasn't changed on their computer. So because the computer wasn't changed, I could only get 1 piece of toast rather than 2 pieces of toast. Now, why should an algorithm tell me I could only have 1 piece of toast? Particularly when it was changed in the computer. What the hell is wrong with our society where a computer makes a goddamn decision and it's binding on everybody, and there's no person that can intercede to change that over 1 piece of toast? I think we need to have legislation that there has to be a human interface and hold the human liable rather than the machine. You can't hold a machine liable. And what these large corporations are doing is they're blaming machines for making decisions that are shitty decisions, punitive decisions, and irrational decisions, and then let's blame it on the computer. Let's blame it on the algorithm, etc. Well, many of you know what Chase Bank did to me in Miami when they almost killed me several years ago. That's what the algorithm can do, and it's time that somebody were able to be held responsible. So I propose this. We look at all the money that corporations have saved through knocking out human beings by way of algorithm, and how many computer errors or computer bad decisions get blamed on the computer that cost other people money. And we take all this money that the corporations save by programming computers, cutting out middlemen, cutting out human beings, put that in a pile, and every time a computer screws up or costs somebody some money or time, because time is money to them, it should be money to us. So anytime we have to go through and spend an extra hour, we ought to be compensated by the computer pile of money, no matter what. So if they steal an hour of my time, I don't have to go look for a lawyer and pay him $500 an hour for 8 hours of court time. They should pay me for that. So I should have minimum $5,000 every time the computer screws up. Now, if it costs them $5,000, or as much as it would cost them in attorney's fees, then maybe they'd think twice. Maybe they'd get individuals in there. Maybe they would have a computer that says, if the diet is changed back, change it right away and let everybody on the system know, rather than say, to hell with them, they don't count, we're covering our ass where there's no liability, what can you do anyway? Well, this is what I can do, and I would love if this damn thing went viral, and I love if everybody would write their congressmen and their senators saying compensate victims of computer error. We need to do that. We need to have compensation. We need to have multinationals, or any corporation for that matter. We have to stop them stealing from us. It's a kleptocracy, and we're the victims. And we're the victims of their so-called efficiency. And when you're screwing the public, that's not efficiency, that's robbery. And this is the dangerous dinosaur saying thank you for watching.